Hello everyone, it's Enigma here, and today I kind of want to take a moment to talk about another character that I really want in Smash. Now, when someone asks me, like, hey Enigma, what character do you want to see in Smash the most? The character I usually bring up is Crash Bandicoot because of my history with him and how much I love him, and I already made a video talking about why I want Crash Bandicoot in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But if someone were to ask me, Enigma, what's like another character you want to see? Like, what's your second most wanted? My answer is usually Geno, and Geno is kind of a controversial character in the Smash community. A lot of people want him, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand why he's such a popular character. A lot of people just think he's just this one-time, one-off, spin-off character from a Mario RPG spin-off game from 20 years ago. From almost 24 years ago. So, people don't really understand the appeal of the character, and I kind of wanted to take a moment to talk about why Geno is a popular character for this game and why I really want to see him, because Geno is a really cool character, and I just think making this video, I hope will clear, you know, I hope will at least be a better understanding of why this, character is a popular pick for Smash and why we just really want to see him. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So we're gonna go way back in time to the 90s, and this was definitely one of Nintendo's biggest decades by far. Nintendo was doing pretty good. Sonic was becoming a thing. This was when RPGs were starting to become a popular thing. And yeah, Mario was just as big as ever. People were playing Mario all over the world. I bet all of you already know this. But there was one thing that Mario games didn't really have in the 90s, and it was in-depth story and characters. Usually most of the Mario games involved one plot line. Save the princess from the evil clutches of an evil villain. That was it, and most of the gameplay was pretty similar too. While those games are amazing, don't get me wrong, they do have the same plot points, and you can kind of see how that can sometimes be a bit repetitive. Then that's when Mario RPG comes in. Now, as I said before, RPGs were starting to become a major genre for video games. RPGs were starting to become new, popular, and the company that was doing the best RPGs, the one that was basically popularizing the RPG genre, was Squaresoft. They were making a lot of games, a lot of RPG games, and they had also a really great relationship with Nintendo, and, Squaresoft were, like, the people behind the Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger games, and it was something that, Nintendo and Squaresoft have such a great relationship. A lot of Squaresoft games were on Nintendo systems, and due to their good relationship, they decided to make a Mario RPG, which was something that, a lot of people back then would never have really thought. Because, again, Mario stories weren't really, big, and a lot of characters are pretty much the same. But Mario RPG changed that, and when it hit store shelves, it blew people away. This was also the first Mario game to actually have 3D models. I mean, yeah, Super Mario 64 came like a few months later, but Super Mario RPG was still the first to like be pretty much in 3D, pretty much. And it blew people away, and it was crazy to see that a Mario game had story. And the party members were Mario, Peach, and Bowser, and it was pretty interesting for the time. A lot of people didn't really think that Bowser would team up with Mario, so that was pretty big. And the story was definitely a lot bigger and more epic than a lot of other Mario games back in the day, so it was really cool. And then there's two party members that are completely new, haven't really been in a Mario game. They're basically introduced into this game, which, one is Mallow, which is a character that, we like, but we don't like as much as the other party member, which is Geno. Now, the reason why people prefer Geno is basically because Geno is just a lot more interesting. Like, he just has the better design. He just looks cool. And, Mallow, he is a cool character, for the most part, he does look like a Mario character, and if you were to show me a picture of Mallow before I even knew of his existence, I probably would have guessed he was a Mario character. Geno, on the other hand, I probably would not have said that. Geno is just, I would never, this is like a Final Fantasy character living in the Mario universe, and that's really, really, really cool. And, we kind of wanted to see these party members again in some game. And by the way, I must mention that this game was the start of Mario RPGs, which went down in history as making Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. So even though Mario RPG definitely didn't take off as much as those games, I mean, you can't really blame it. It came after the N60, near the end of the SNES's life, and this game was released the same year that the N64 was about to come out, so you can't really blame this game. It's still a legendary game, and it's still a very important game to Nintendo's history, whether you want to believe it or not. And like I said, Geno was a cool character, and we just kind of wanted to see these characters again, We weren't really sure if they would appear again because, we didn't know how, Mario RPG characters would work back in the day. Now we know that, Mario RPGs tend to be, one-off characters. We understand that. But as for, characters like Mallow and Geno, we kind of expected them to come back in some form. We expected these to become, main characters. And they haven't. We haven't seen them ever since Mario RPG. And we kind of were a bit upset. And then as we grew older, we started to understand, why they haven't appeared. I have no doubt in my mind they would appear again if they weren't owned by Squaresoft. These characters are Mario characters owned by Squaresoft, which is pretty interesting. Usually when, another company makes different characters for their franchise, usually it's owned by the company that owns the franchise. Like how Rare, is owned by Microsoft now. They made a lot of, original Donkey Kong characters, but those Donkey Kong characters are still owned by Nintendo. Mario RPG characters, on the other hand, is not the same. Those characters are owned by Squaresoft, and that's why they haven't really appeared again, except for Geno, who made a minor cameo in Mario and Luigi, and, Geno also appeared as a Mii outfit in Smash 4, and a Spirit in Ultimate, well, along with Mallow. But yeah, a lot of people really did want to see these characters again, and the fact that they were owned by a third-party company made it very unlikely they would appear in a Mario game. That's where Super Smash Bros. Comes in. Now, Super Smash Bros. Was obviously, a big game. It's a game where, companies come together and add their characters. Now, before Brawl, obviously, it probably wasn't too likely since third-party characters haven't happened yet, and even though we had talkings of Snake and Sonic in Melee, they have, gotten approached about it, it didn't end up materializing, and we thought that, if they were to include Geno, it would be the same. But, fast forward to Brawl, 7 years later, and Brawl introduces third-party characters, and obviously, people want Geno, because people want to see this character again, and really, if you really think about it, Smash Brothers is really the only way we can revive these characters, obviously. That's what we had to do with Banjo, and obviously Banjo was another one of my most wanted characters. I'll just throw that out there, and that was a character I was definitely rooting for, along with Crash and Geno back in Brawl. We just wanted to see these characters again, and, Smash Brothers really was the only way we could revive them. And so, obviously, we requested for them to appear in the game, and they appeared pretty high in that Japanese poll. There was a Japanese poll for Brawl, and the three most wanted characters were Sonic at number 1, Mega Man at number 2, and Geno at number 3. So, obviously people wanted to see him again, and, again, Mario RPG was a very legendary game. It was the first Mario game to have, story, original characters, and it was just a really great game, and it was definitely the one game that really started the Mario RPGs, and even though, people sleep on Mario RPG's importance, and many people say that just this weird spin-off game that nobody cares about, nah, this game was definitely a game people cared about back in the 90s, and um, it's a very legendary game. And if you haven't tried it, you gotta try it. It was also I believe it was the first RPG to have timed hits, which went down in history as one of the big mechanics of RPG games to come. Um, so even though Mario RPG isn't really talked about much today, it really is a legendary game, and Geno, I'll even go as far as to say that Geno definitely does deserve a spot. He's a missing piece of Nintendo history, and that's why today, along with Crash, I'm gonna still keep supporting him. I'm gonna keep supporting him for the game. But I do understand why people didn't really understand the appeal. Like, if I never knew about the appeal of Mario RPG, I would have been confused too. But Geno is definitely a lost piece of Nintendo's history, and I just think it'd be really cool to bring him back into the spotlight, especially since he was in the RPG of Mario games that started it all. So I think it'd be really cool to see Geno. Besides, he has such a cool design. I think he'd be so cool. But yeah, that's basically why I want Geno in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, what are your guys' opinion? Do you guys want Geno in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, or don't you guys? Because there's a lot of people that don't. And explain to me why you don't want him. I would love to hear it. Anyways, this has been Enigma, and peace. See you next time.